NBA shooters that will get traded. As the NBA has become faster paced and more perimeter centric over the past decade, shooting has become an increasingly sought after skill in the NBA. Back in the 90s, it was very common for players to have big roles on NBA teams without necessarily having the long distance shot in their repertoire. However, these types of players are becoming very rare. Whether your team has a lot of trade assets or are going to be looking cheaper role players to fill their vacancy, this video will go over options that could suit the needs for everyone. Let's look at some players around the NBA that are currently available for trade and fit the role of three-point specialist. Myles Turner. The Indiana Pacers center has developed into one of the league's true unicorns since getting drafted out of the University of Texas in 2015. The 6'11" big man will be one of the most coveted trade targets in the entire league as we get closer to the trade deadline. The two-time block champ is currently shooting over 40% from three this year, while also averaging over 2 blocks and 16 points per game. Truly spectacular. These are all-star caliber numbers that put him in a class with Bucks' Brook Lopez in these statistical categories. The 26-year-old is on an expiring contract, and teams looking to improve on both ends of the floor will be in a bidding war for his services. Buddy Hield. Turner's teammate Buddy Hield might be available for trade as well this season. Unlike Turner, Hield has another year remaining on his contract beyond this season. The 6'4" shooting guard has one of the purest strokes in the game, as proven by his near 40% three-point shooting percentage on high volumes throughout his career. He's another player that likely won't come cheap, but could give a big offensive boost to a lot of NBA teams. Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott is currently playing for the San Antonio Spurs, who are in a rebuild and are out of playoff contention. The Creighton standout is owner of one of the most accurate three-point lasers in the NBA. He's currently shooting .417 from three this season and has shot it at an average of 41% throughout his NBA career. The 6'7" wing also has one more year beyond this one on his contract that pays him $13.75 million per season. Dougie Mack could be the perfect candidate to take an NBA contender to the next level. Josh Richardson. Speaking of the Spurs, Josh Richardson is another player that could be the perfect pickup for an NBA contender. The 6'5" combo guard may not be as lethal as his teammate Doug McDermott from outside the arc, but he brings other intangibles that are coveted by NBA teams as well. Richardson is shooting .357 from three this season for the Spurs, but shot .415 last season for the Celtics and Spurs combined. Not too shabby. Richardson has also shown the ability to pass, dribble, and defend at an above-average level in the NBA. He is on an expiring contract worth just over $12 million per season. If Richardson is the coveted piece that you think would be the right fit on your favorite team, the asking price is reportedly a first-round draft pick. Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon is a 6'3" guard that is the longest tenured player on the Houston Rockets. The 34-year-old has seen his numbers slightly drop this season. He's only shooting .354 from three and 11.4 points per game, but that has a large part to do with the rest of the abysmal Rockets roster. The combo guard is a proven scorer at the NBA level with an average of .370 from three and 16.2 points per game throughout his entire career. Is it possible that the veteran has enough left in the tank to offer the type of offensive upside to a competitive roster down the stretch? Gordon makes approximately $20 million on his contract and has a clause in his deal that gives him an extra year as long as he's not waived before June of 2023. So any team that trades for him will need to be prepared to accommodate his $20 million deal with their salary cap next season as well. Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson has proved himself to be amongst the most accurate deep threat in NBA history during his time with the Miami Heat. Robinson did not get drafted after his 4-year collegiate career at the University of Michigan. He did sign a contract as a free agent with Miami as a 24-year-old and then earned the starting job for Eric Spoelstra's roster in the 2019-20 season. Duncan Robinson has been a starter for the Heat for 3 consecutive seasons while shooting 3 balls at a ridiculous 43% clip. However, his performance has not been on par this year, and he has lost his starting job in the Heat rotation. He's currently averaging 18.5 minutes per game and shooting a mediocre .356 three-point percentage. The Heat have been underperforming as a whole, and it is rumored that it might be time to find a new home for Robinson. He will make close to $20 million per season for 3 years in a row after this one, so acquiring him would be a pretty major commitment for any team. Still, a shooter of his caliber could make a big difference for a team come playoff time. Bojan Bogdanovic. There are conflicting reports about whether Pistons forward Bojan Bogdanovic is or isn't available for trade. The Pistons acquired Bogdanovic from Utah this offseason in exchange for Kelly Olynyk and Saben Lee. The Bosnian forward has responded by putting up really impressive numbers in the Motor City. He's shooting over 40% from 3 while averaging 20 points per game and is even flirting with the prestigious 40-50-90 stat line that has only been accomplished a limited amount of times throughout the history of the NBA. The Pistons are in a rebuild and could easily parlay Bojan into some future pieces worth a lot more than they traded away to acquire him. However, reports have been swirling around that instead of shipping him off, the Pistons may choose to keep him on the team in an attempt to push for the playoffs next season. PJ Washington. PJ Washington is a pretty unique piece that a lot of teams could see as valuable. The Charlotte Hornets have been struggling and could potentially see merit in shaking up the roster before next season. At 6'7" and 230 pounds, the 24-year-old is as strong as an ox, athletic, and rather skilled for his size. He hasn't been very efficient from deep this year, but his career average of .366 is very impressive for his size. Washington is still young and has lots of upside. He was drafted with the 12th overall pick out of Kentucky in the 2019 NBA draft, so don't expect him to be cheap. He's also under a great contract with team control next season that teams could comfortably fit under the salary cap. Don't be surprised if a young team in the middle of the pack trades away a first-round pick in hopes that PJ Washington can be a big part of their future. Gary Harris. The Orlando Magic are out of contention and have a couple guards that they could ship off during their rebuild as well. Harris is a career .365 three-point shooter who also plays exceptional perimeter defense. He has spent most of his career as an underrated role player for the Denver Nuggets and definitely has the skill set that could benefit teams in the playoffs. Will Barton. Another former Nugget, Will Barton, could be available. He has an expiring contract and the Washington Wizards are falling out of playoff contention. Barton has a unique skill set. He can do a little bit of everything. He's 6'6". He plays great perimeter defense, is an above-average playmaker, and can knock down the three as well. Barton seems like the type of player that could be a cheap candidate to play a major role as a sixth man or a two-way team for a team that doesn't want to spend too much but wants to improve their roster. Other players could be available too. Terrence Ross could probably be had for very cheap out of Orlando, and Evan Fournier hasn't quite worked out with the Knicks either. It is clear that there is something out there for everyone. It will be quite interesting to see where the players end up come trade deadline, and which teams will improve their roster the most before the playoffs. Let us know which of these players you would like to see traded to your favorite team, or mention anyone I left off this list. Also, subscribe to our channel if you want to watch more NBA-related content. Thanks for watching.